Welcome everyone to our Caregiver webinar, an introduction into ABA with Bierman Autism Centers. I'd like to introduce Sarah, who is one of our wonderful clinical directors in our Rhode Island centers. And I will hand it over to Sarah and let her take it away.
Thank you very much. All right, I can't see anybody who has joined because of my view. So thank you to all of you who have chosen to join me tonight. I'm going to try to make this as fun for you, but also as informative as possible. I know it's late and you have busy lives. As said, my name is Sarah. I'm one of the clinical directors for our Rhode Island centers. My home base is Warwick, but I'm covering in Cranston. I've been a board certified behavior analyst for about 10 years now, a clinical director for many of those years, and I've been in many different settings, school-based, center-based. I've done some home services, going into homes for families, and I've worked from ages birth all the way up to adulthood in residential settings, private schools, again, lots of different settings and populations, just so you know a little bit about me. All right, so we're here today to talk about an introduction to ABA. Let's get into it. So a couple of housekeeping things. Everyone is on mute. So if you need to ask a question, you can unmute yourself or type in the chat. I highly recommend typing in the chat whenever you have a question, so you feel like you can interrupt me whenever. I will try to monitor the chat. If I miss something though, feel free to interrupt me. I'd like it to be, again, as good for you as it can be. So, oh, I see someone has raised their hand. Go ahead, you can unmute yourself. Unless that was an accident. Might have been an accident. Oh, accident. Okay. Just testing out the features. No worries. Like I mentioned, we want this presentation to be as interactive as possible, so please ask questions throughout, okay? All right, so a little bit about Bierman. Bierman Autism Centers is a place where young kiddos like to engage in play, learn foundational skills, and we are going to build on their self-advocacy skills and communication. Communication is huge. You'll hear me say that a lot throughout this presentation. We know that every kiddo is different. Everyone is unique. And that's why our one-on-one approach allows us to drive progress using measurable outcomes while each kiddo is advancing their own skills on their own terms. Our team is dedicated to making learning welcoming and fun by erasing the line between learning and play. You'll also hear me say that a couple of times. It's something we pride ourselves in. It's one of the reasons I came to Bierman, again, blurring those lines between learning and play. We want our kiddos to not even know that they're learning. They're having such a good time. Kids at our centers enjoy taking on new challenges and become motivated as they learn new skills. That's really key. Our approach ensures kiddos become confident and empowered lifelong learners. How cool is it when we can get a kiddo to be excited about learning? The Bierman Circle of Care and Support includes the whole family, not just the child, not just our client, right? We empower parents through training and collaboration. So through our treatment process, the parents are always included through the entire process. All right, a few of our Bierman pillars I'd like to share with you. We want kids to be kids, so let kids be kids. We accept every child for who they are, and that is a unique person. We also want everyone learning through play, like I mentioned, erasing those lines between learning and play to keep our kids engaged and motivated. And empowerment is key. We use everyday activities to teach our kids foundational skills such as self-advocacy and communication. Like I said, we'll be mentioning communication quite a few times throughout this presentation. And engagement with family. It's kind of like we're doing here, right? We believe it's important to build connections and, working towards shared goals. It's not just what we think is good, for our clients and our kiddos at this time. It's also what you need from us and how we can help support families. And we have a commitment to progress. We are dedicated to each child's everyday and long-term progress. I see a question came through in the chat. Hi there. Looks like the West Orange location only for sensory-friendly events, or will there be an ABA center also?
There will be. It is opening in June. So we will be there. We're going to host some events before opening, but we will be ready to go in June.
Amazing. Okay, so moving on, thank you for that question. Moving on to our agenda. So I'm going to provide an introductory overview of applied behavior analysis. So if you didn't know what ABA stood for, there you go, applied behavior analysis. We're going to understand how and why behavior happens. And then I'll describe a day in the life at Bierman for our learners. All right, so the big question, what is ABA? As I mentioned, ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. This is a science dedicated to understanding how and why humans behave. As behavior analysts, we focus on defining and teaching behavior, and we want to make socially significant changes for our clients and families. Um, Behavior is everything an organism does, I should mention. So this can range obviously from you, me, your children, your friends, any living organism exhibits behavior, right? It also relates to your boss, the dog down the street, everybody. When we talk about applied behavior analysis, though, we're talking from a standpoint of making those socially significant changes. Not only, to do that is to learn how and why someone behaves the way they do, and then work with the environment to improve it in that socially significant way. An example might be, following a safety command or a direction. That's going to make it more safe for that individual to be in the community, maybe to have better relationships with those around them. So that's what we're talking about when we say socially significant. What ABA is not, I like to discuss this, we are not counseling services. We're not only used with pets. That's something I get quite frequently. But again, pets are living organisms. So, ABA does apply to all living organisms. We are not only used with someone diagnosed with autism. Hopefully I've made that pretty clear so far. We're not focused on changing the thoughts or interests of people. We do not use bribery. We'll explain a little bit why, maybe that's confused sometimes with what we call reinforcement. We're not fitting someone into a standard norm, and we're not promoting robotic behavior. So those are some of the things you might run across when you're Googling ABA. And that's not what we're doing here. So I'd like to just make that clear. All right, so where do you see ABA being performed? That can be in centers, like Bierman Autism Centers. It can be in the home, within the school, within the community, really anywhere. More places you might see ABA, more specifics. It could be early intervention with kiddos 18 months to 3 years old. Children in schools, it might be 4 years old to 18 years old. College athletes, adults, and then even in corporations, they could use ABA to change staff behavior regarding productivity and things like that. Okay, so how does ABA work? Sometimes it feels like magic. And I always like to say that. If you're doing it right, it can really feel like magic. So after defining what behavior we want to change and what it looks like, the very first step is figuring out why the person engages the way that they do, or engages in that behavior the way they do. This is called the function of behavior. So this is where we really start to dive in to how ABA works. So we have 4 functions of behavior. Yes, 4, only 4. Those are listed here: attention, access to tangibles, escape, and automatic. Now I'm going to break those down for you a little bit here. Attention means that the individual we're talking about engages in a behavior to receive attention from somebody. This could be attention from a parent, friend, teacher, boss, sibling. And in our lives, we may see, someone likes to work at the gym, work out at the gym more than working out alone. And this could be because of the attention received at the gym, for example. That would be a behavior exhibited for attention. So access to tangibles, this means that the individual wants access to something, something they can touch, feel, see, hear, or smell. That's what we're talking about when we say something tangible. Can also be an activity. It's usually a preferred toy, preferred activity. For example, why do most people work, right? We work to make money. That's a tangible, aside from being able to live, of course, but everybody here is probably doing something for a tangible reinforcer. And then escape. This means that the person wants to get out of something that they don't want to do. This could be many things. It could be going to school, getting a bath, for example, brushing teeth, completing homework, going to the doctor. So these are all things that an individual might exhibit a behavior in order to escape these things. Another example could be you have a friend who never has anything great to say. So when you see her in the grocery store, maybe you walk the other way. You're trying to escape that person because you don't love to be around them, for example. And then we have automatic. I sometimes describe this as the trickiest function because it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our social environment, the environment around us. And most oftentimes, people don't even realize they're doing it. I've probably done things for an automatic function many times during this presentation already. It could include, clicking a pen, maybe jiggling your leg up and down, things like that, even scratching a bug bite or a scab or something. Those are all automatically maintained behaviors. All right, so why are functions of behavior important to us? I'm sure you already have some ideas of why they're important, but to really break it down for you, they tell us what we need to teach or what skills someone may be missing. It helps us find appropriate replacement behaviors for maybe behaviors we might label as inappropriate, for example. Sometimes we're able to determine that function and replace, that challenging behavior we don't want to see anymore with a behavior that is socially significant, for example. Okay, so talking about teaching new skills, we usually call this skill acquisition. So you might hear me interchange those as well. So I'm going to give you an example. Sammy screams when mom comes in the room. We know this behavior, the function of this behavior is attention because every time Sammy screams, mom comes over and gives loves, cuddles, and kisses, right? So lots of attention for that screaming behavior. Now, totally fine. There's nothing wrong with giving Sammy lots of attention, lots of love, but maybe we could teach Sammy to walk over to mom and maybe tap her on the arm or give her a hug or hold her hand, maybe reach out and grab her hand, right? These are all ways for this kiddo Sammy to communicate that they want some attention instead of screaming. So the function of the screaming behavior right now is attention, and we want to replace that with something else. Another example, let's say during dinner time, Lucy takes her plate and throws it to the ground. And then, her dad picks it up, removes it, and offers her something else to eat. This would tell me that Lucy is throwing her food to the ground as a way to escape that meal. So when she throws it, dad cleans it up, doesn't have to eat that meal anymore. She's successfully escaped eating the meal. So the function of throwing her food is escape. Now, what if we could teach Lucy to shake her head no, or even maybe select a picture or say, what she'd rather eat, right? So we're not trying to change what she likes or dislikes. We're trying to give her an alternative, less messy way to communicate how she's feeling about her dinner options. Now, I will say you might be thinking, well, that's fine. My kids get what they get for dinner. You get what you get and you don't get upset. That's okay too. Fantastic. Stay strong. We can talk about ways to positively create, that environment as well. So here in this graphic that you've been looking at, we're talking about, behaviors we want to decrease as well as behaviors we want to increase. All right, so let's talk about things we want to teach. What else do we want to teach? We want to increase communication. I said I'd say it a lot. Here I'm saying it again. Communication is so key to helping our learners thrive. Play behavior. We want to expand our learners' ability to play with different items in different environments. Social behavior. We want our kiddos to want to be around other peers and find them valuable and play with their friends. We do toilet training in our centers as well. We want to increase that skill for sure. And then independence. Usually, lastly, we really want to increase their independence. All right, so an example of some skills that we might want to decrease. So, behaviors that are considered undesirable or challenging, of course, we want to target those for decrease. Any repetitive behaviors, we call them usually stereotypy. You've probably heard that word before. We would focus on decreasing those. And then maybe we want to decrease the duration it takes to complete a task. Maybe you have a kiddo that, takes I don't know, an hour and a half to get dressed in the morning, maybe. Maybe we want to decrease that time and teach them how to do that in a more desirable fashion. As we dive into this too, I'll preface by saying that we talk about decreasing behavior, and we're only trying to decrease behavior when it's determined to be socially significant to do so. So we're going to target behavior for decrease when it impacts someone's social skills or their access to other things. It's not an attempt to change any individual or to take things away that they enjoy. I think that's really important to mention. So undesirable behaviors would be things like screaming or hitting, crying, kicking, maybe hitting their head to the floor. These are challenging behaviors that might interfere with their learning, and we want to help them communicate their wants and needs in a different way, not through challenging behaviors. So, in an effort to reduce some of these behaviors to levels that would occur, in any child at their age, we always work to teach that communicative skill as a replacement. And then, in regards to repetitive behaviors and stereotypy, if that's not familiar to you, think about doing a task over and over, or even lining up items. So lining up cars, or lining up maybe figurines, farm animals, books. Anything that's kind of a restrictive, repetitive behavior. If they're spinning around all day long or something like that, um those are things, again, they could interfere with their learning, and we want to help them find replacement behaviors for those. All right, now we are going to talk about the power of reinforcement. One of my favorite topics to talk about, because boy, there is power behind true reinforcement. So, one of our guiding principles at Bierman Autism Centers is to use reinforcement whenever possible. And boy, do we use it all the time. As we dive into this, I would like to mention too, I'll contrast reinforcement with punishment. And something to keep in mind is that we use these terms differently in our work than you might use them in everyday language. So bear with me. Don't hesitate to ask questions, but I'll go over the definitions very carefully with you. All right, so reinforcement. The definition for reinforcement we'll be using is a change in the environment immediately following a behavior that leads to that behavior continuing to occur in the future. Okay, so we're talking about an increase in behavior in the future. An example could be a child says, "Pick me up," to their caregiver with outstretched arms during a walk outside. Almost every time they ask, their caregiver smiles, picks them up for the remainder of the walk. Very nice. The child continues to ask towards the end of every walk in the future. So now they've learned this behavior. Oh, I ask, pick me up, my caregiver picks me up, and I finish the walk that way. A non-example would be a child says, "Pick me up," their caregiver with outstretched arms during the walk, same situation. Almost every time the child asks, the caregiver tells them, "We're almost home, you can do it." And then the child stops asking after a while. So this non-example of reinforcement would actually be considered punishment, which we'll get into. It doesn't mean it's bad or good. So that's what I really want you to want to make sure that everybody understands. We're talking about an increase in behavior for reinforcement, and we'll dive into how we decrease behaviors through punishment. So here is just the breakdown of really pulling out those details. So the behavior was pick me up. The result was the caregiver picked them up. And then the child continues to ask towards the end of every walk, reinforcement. And then the breakdown of the second situation, the child asks, pick me up. Caregiver tells them we're almost home. You can do it. Some encouragement. And then they stop asking for a while, after a while. Okay, so leading right into punishment now, a good lead in. This is a change in the environment immediately following a behavior that leads to that behavior decreasing in the future. So punishment in ABA, that terminology does not equal bad, which is what I was mentioning earlier. It simply means the decrease in the future frequency of the behavior. And I know that word punishment really can have a negative connotation, so I want to make that clear. It's just the decrease of the future behavior. So in that non-example, like I mentioned, it wasn't reinforcement, it was punishment. Another example could be if you receive feedback on an assignment from your boss and you stop doing something, per definition, this would be punishment. So you've been punished by your boss, you've stopped exhibiting that behavior. So again, it's got a bad rap in everyday language, but it's something we use to signify a decrease in behavior. Okay, so talking about reinforcers and punishers. A reinforcer is something that, when presented after the behavior, increases that future frequency of that behavior, and a punisher is something that, when presented after a behavior, decreases the future frequency of that behavior. So we'll talk about reinforcement, punishment, and then the reinforcer and the punisher. So that's a little distinction there. And then here are the highlighted, really like to drive these home. Reinforcement increases, punisher decreases. All right. Okay, now there's some audience participation. I hope I get some. Okay, we're gonna practice. Here's an example. Ethan begins wearing underwear during the day. He goes to the bathroom in his pants, leaving them very wet. After 2 accidents, so he does this 2 times, he stops going to the bathroom in his pants. What has happened here? So, is this an example of reinforcement or punishment? It looks like Carly won. Quick typer. It is an example of punishment. Very, very nice. This is punishment because, yes, nice. Getting some more answers. We have some agreement. Excellent. I should have waited for more people to answer. I gave it right to Carly. Thank you for that quick answer. It is an example of punishment because the behavior of wetting his pants is decreasing. And there's one more question. I was going to give you the answer, but can anybody tell me what functioned as the punisher? So what actually punished the behavior? Can anybody think of how to describe that? It's a little bit of a tricky question, but identifying what actually punished the behavior is sometimes really valuable in our work. Excellent. The feeling of being wet, that discomfort. Exactly. So the wet pants is what functioned as that punisher. Correct. Nice. Thank you. I appreciate the participation. All right, practicing again. Here we go. Everyone get ready with their keyboards. So we have Nellie. Nellie loves ice cream. As the ice cream truck passes, she says, "Daddy, can we please get ice cream?" Dad takes her over for a small cone with rainbow sprinkles. Every time she sees an ice cream truck with, oh, that's supposed to say Daddy, she politely asks for ice cream, and he always lets her get it. So, is this an example of reinforcement or punishment? Beautiful. Oh, a lot of quick thank you for this participation. Oh, yep, everyone's getting it. Fantastic. You guys are all pros. What are you even doing here? You are all correct. It is an example of reinforcement. And then, perfect. What functioned as the reinforcer? Can you identify the reinforcer? Excellent. Yep. You guys are pros. The ice cream functioned as the reinforcer, which is increasing her asking for the ice cream. Perfect. You guys seem like you really know what's going on. So I'm gonna ask you one more question. Um, can you identify the function of this behavior? If you remember the 4 functions from the previous slides, anyone want to take a stab at that one? I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Amazing. You're right. Good job. It is access to tangible. So ice cream cone is a tangible item, or even the activity of going to get ice cream with her father could be, the tangible, but it is access to tangibles. Really nice work. Awesome. All right, practicing a little bit more. Here we go. Jack loves to jump on the couch. Mom says, stop jumping on the couch. Jack stops jumping on the couch. Isn't that lovely? And chooses to jump on the mini trampoline instead. So, what is this? An example of reinforcement or punishment? Excellent. We have some differing. Nice. I would like that you guys are answering, even though you're not sure. This is fantastic. This is a tricky one. So always think about the behavior we're looking at. So we're looking at the behavior of jumping on the couch, and the future frequency of that behavior of jumping on the couch decreased in this situation. So if jumping on the couch decreases, then is it reinforcement or punishment? I want to give you a second to think about that, since some of you weren't sure. See if anyone wants to change their answers. So if jumping on the couch decreases in the future, it is actually punishment. So tricky. So mom saying stop jumping on the couch stopped his jumping on the couch. It decreased in the future. Wish it was always that easy, right? Just say stop and they stop jumping on the couch. But in this example, since the behavior decreased upon hearing no, don't jump on the couch, it is punishment. That's a tricky one. And then the function of this, it could still be access to tangibles, because it's a tangible would be an activity as well, jumping on the couch. And in this situation, fantastic. Jack found an appropriate replacement behavior on his own and started jumping on the trampoline instead. So this is an example of punishment. And then what functions as the punisher? I kind of gave this away a little bit. Mom saying no or stop jumping on the couch was actually what served as the punisher in that example. So you can see, punishment isn't necessarily bad. This is a really great example. Mom just got to say no, and Jack just stopped jumping on the couch. So that's actually fantastic. All right, last one. At bedtime, Grace's mom tells her that it is time for bed. Grace screams and cries, no, runs over to her toys and begins to play. Mom lets her play for another 20 minutes and tries again later. Almost every single night, Grace begins to cry when it is time for bed. Is this an example of reinforcement or punishment? So every single time it's time for bed, that behavior of crying, it's increasing in the future every single time. You guys got it. Yep, you are correct. It is reinforcement. So allowing her to play for 20 minutes and then trying again later is actually reinforcing that behavior in the future. I love that comment. I am actually going to address that. Can you use the word consequence also as a punishment? Because if my child hears punishment, he will have a meltdown and internalize it. So punishment, whatever follows the behavior, punishment or reinforcement, we actually do classify that as a consequence. So it would not be wrong at all to just say the consequence is blank. And then you know if it's punishment, you're trying to decrease behavior, and if it's reinforcement, you're trying to increase behavior. Absolutely. I would not use punishment when working with an individual. It would just be the action that I did, right? So, for example, the mom saying no to Jack jumping on the couch. Mom doesn't say, I'm the punisher is no, don't jump on the couch. Mom just exhibits the behavior of saying, no, Jack, don't jump on the couch. So no breakdown really needs to happen for learning to happen. Just delivering that consequence, as you said, is absolutely fine. But I do like that. Those could be interchangeable. Really, really great point. All right. In this last example here, what functions as the reinforcer? So again, this is Grace playing with her toys before bed. Can anybody tell me what would act as the reinforcer here? Yeah, extra time to play, access to those toys. Nice. All right. Fantastic. Thank you for all that participation. I really appreciate that. Okay, so now I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about a day in the life of Bierman. So we have this fantastic goofy picture here. I'm going to introduce you to the team. So we have our behavior analysts. We call them BAs for behavior analyst, but they're actually board certified behavior analysts like myself, which is what you see there, BCBA. They collaborate with families and any other professionals that are delivering services to your child. So that could be speech or OT, which stands for occupational therapy. And we're always constantly collaborating on developing socially significant goals for our treatment plans, our individualized treatment plans for our kiddos. The behavior analyst will conduct assessments and oversee your kiddos' everyday programs. They'll support the rest of the team members, and they would be your main point of contact. So you would be hearing directly from the BA that's working with your child. And then we have our behavior technicians, abbreviated here as BT. They work with your kiddo one-to-one. They are the ones implementing the programs throughout the day that are designed by the behavior analyst. They assist with pickup and drop off each day. So these are the individuals that would be coming to the door saying good morning, taking your kiddo to their workstations and their play areas. And these individuals are the ones providing that stimulating, fun environment for your child. They support everyday routines, meal times, toileting. They support all of that and are trained to do so. Then we also have a really amazing position called the Training and Program Specialist, abbreviated TPS. This is the middle person between the behavior analyst or BA and the behavior technician or the BT. The TPS will support training the BTs. They'll support them in accessing toys for their learners or other materials that they might need for their therapy that day. And they also support coverage of one-to-one therapy if a team member is out or is on lunch, scheduled out for a vacation, for example, because we try very hard to have consistent teams for our kiddos, so everyone knows them very well. And then we have the clinical directors, which is me. The clinical director, there's one per center. We support all team members at the center, oversee clinical decisions and programs for every child at the center. We want to make sure we have good clinical rigor for our programs, and that's what we're doing. Then we have a practice manager at each center. They oversee the day-to-day operations of the center. They'll handle scheduling for both team members and families, clients, and things like that. So at drop off in the morning, you would bring your child into the center. You'd meet with that morning BT, behavior technician, and then you bring us any news we might need to know that would help us have a successful day of therapy with your kiddo. That could be, did they sleep well at night? Yeah, how was their night in general? How did it go this morning? It's okay if the morning was really rough and you want to share that with us. That's good for us to know. so we can, guide our therapy in the morning. Maybe we need to start off with a really big play session, to get that kiddo engaged and ready to learn. If they haven't eaten yet, sometimes, they weren't ready to eat in the morning and they're giving you a hard time. And we need to make sure that we offer them food right in the morning so they're not hungry. And then you would say your goodbyes, hand off the backpack, lunch, anything else that we would need for the day. And then your kiddo gets started. So, starting the day, the BT helps your kiddo with any morning routines. That could be dropping off their backpack, hanging it on the hook in their cubby, putting their lunchbox in the fridge, for example. Sometimes they go right to the bathroom, depending on what their schedule is. And then if they hadn't eaten breakfast yet, we can help them do that as well. And then the BT helps your child find their first activity of the day. And again, captures that fun environment for them because we want our learners running into the center, excited to start their day. All right, so a little bit about the sessions throughout the day. We have about 3 to 4 sessions with a BT, and they last about 2 hours each. A little more, a little less, depending on the kiddo, depending on the staff. BTs spend time getting to know your child, learning their likes, dislikes, building kind of a special rapport with them. I always love if I jump into a session with a learner and, a BT will tell me what their favorite video is and, Coco Boco this or, it's so great. They know them so well. Even little specific toys or items that they like to carry during transitions and all those little details are so important to make our learners be successful and happy throughout their day. And then we intermix play all through the day. The BTs contrive learning opportunities and teachable moments to assist in the skills that we've written in the treatment plan. So that again, our clients, our kiddos are learning, but it's all through play. And we kind of set up the environment so they can access that practice to those skills that they need to build on. The BT capitalizes on those learning opportunities with toys, activities, anything your child shows interest in. We're going to try to use as a learning or teaching opportunity to help expand their interests. All right, and then thinking about those teachable moments. What's taught most often? Communication. Absolutely. We need our kiddos to be able to tell us their wants and needs effectively. So I said I'd mention it a couple of times. Communication. There it is again. Play skills, social skills. We'll have some independence goals for our learners. And then transition readiness goals. This is a part that's really important for our kiddos. This is, intensive ABA therapy in a center-based program. But we want them to be in a more typical learning environment, such as a school, with whatever supports they need to be successful. So we do talk about transition quite a bit throughout our clients' stay with us. All right, talking about those teachable moments some more here. Every kiddo has different goals, needs, learning styles. So we need to get to know your child specifically, meet them where they're at, see what they need, and then that behavior analyst will capitalize on those individual needs to help figure out what learning environment works best for them. And you are always welcome to come and see the work that we are doing with your child. So you can let us know. We set up a time and you come in and see your kiddo in action. Something I also really love that we do. Okay, so some teaching strategies. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that this is good information. Thank you. Thank you. So some teaching strategies, we use naturalistic teaching. I've kind of talked about this a lot through this presentation. To the average eye, it should look like we are just playing and having a ball. But what we're really doing is teaching really specific goals that we've identified that your child might need to expand on. It allows that learning to be fun, natural, and really engaging. This could involve discrete trial teaching or discrete trial training. Um, I love to pause here really quickly and say if you Google DTT or discrete trial training, you might get some mixed reviews. But I like to say it can be fun. So some people think it's, kill and drill at the table, and it's just simply not that. It is a way to practice harder skills, but it's a great way to do it. And again, it can still be fun and reinforced. So I just like to make a little plug for DTT. It's a really great teaching arrangement. It involves very clear beginning, middle, end of an activity, has predictability and consistency, which is sometimes why our learners absolutely love this style of teaching. And then when possible, we embed this type of teaching into play using play materials or activities. We do not need a referral from a pediatrician. What we would need would be a diagnostic report. I can actually swing back to that one. It looks like India had a question there. Oops, did I jump around a little bit? No, okay, here we go. So for other teaching strategies that we use, fluency-based instruction, or FBI, it's another teaching arrangement. It's used to teach skills that might be more difficult for your child to learn, but it has a lot of repeated practice. So our kiddos get really good at that skill. It focuses on accuracy and speed of behavior, and then often leads to skills that are learned faster, retained longer. A lot of benefits to fluency-based instruction, and we generalize those into everyday activities as well. Toileting, this is a big one. Whether your kiddo's toilet trained or not, there will be regular checks and changing, depending on, what you let us know what your kiddo needs. We'll check them throughout the day, but if they have a schedule that you want us to try, we're open to that. We want to know what you've been doing at home. And then you can always collaborate with your BA if there's anything specific in terms of those routines. For meal times, all of our clients have, usually a specified lunch time, snack time throughout the day. This can again be individualized to what you're used to, what your kiddo is used to. If they're used to having two snacks in the morning and then lunch, we're going to do that. We're going to set up their day just like that. And then collaboration with the BA, so important here. We're not mind readers for sure, but if you tell us to do something, we're going to try to do it, and we're going to try to do it consistently. So always feel free to reach out to the behavior analyst to discuss those things. Naps. We do have some nappers in our centers. This depends on their routines and their ages, but we do have cots for each individual. And then we just ask that you bring anything that they might need for their naps. And that can include blankets, pillows, stuffed animals, that special little item they always hold in their hands before they fall asleep. We want to know those things, and we want to use them. And then we just send those items home, usually weekly to be laundered, but more frequently if you prefer. We also do rock kiddos to sleep, and we'll bounce them on our knee until they look sleepy. I mean, very caring technicians that we have. And then pick up. So at the end of the day, the RBT that's been supporting your child, they'll get them ready to leave and gather all their materials that need to be sent home. You'll meet the RBT. Oh, and look, we switched to RBT. I'm so sorry. So I was talking about BT, behavior technician. RBT stands for registered behavior technician, which is what we work for all of our behavior technicians to become. It's an extra certification they would sit for an exam. It's kind of a big deal for them. It's a way to improve their clinical sophistication. So sorry, I switched to RBT there. But you'll meet with the VT and your child, say your hellos and goodbyes. The BT should give you an overview of their day, tell you some things about their day, but then you also get a detailed parent note every single day, which will tell you some of the programs they did really well on, some of the things they might have struggled with a little bit, and what helped. You'll also hear about what they ate, when they ate it, any diaper changes, toileting routines, all that is written on that note for you, so you know what's going on throughout the day. This can also be a good time to flag down the BA if you have questions. Not all team members are going to be available at pickup, but you can ask somebody to go get the BA, see if they're available, and they should be able to come over and talk to you quickly too, which is nice. We try to be very available at pickup and drop off. All right. That was all I had for you. Again, I appreciate your participation, and I'll open it up for any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to chat. I do see some questions coming in as well.
And Sarah, people might need to raise, if they want to speak in person, they might need to raise their hand. The way that the Zoom sets up webinars, I have to click a button after they raise their hand.
Got it. Okay, I can see no participants, and
Great.
I don't see any raised hands, so you might need to help me out with that
Yeah,
a little bit.
absolutely. I got it. Someone asked if their child is in school full time, how would ABA work?
Yes. So it absolutely depends. If we do our assessment and we recommend that they come to us full time, which would be 40 hours a week, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, for example, then they would discontinue school at that time to work on those skills. We also have other scenarios within there. So if we're not recommending full time, and it looks like, maybe your kiddo has a lot of those school readiness skills but really needs to work on some specific skills through ABA, then we could recommend part-time. So there's a lot of different variations within that, but in general, if they're in full-time school and full-time ABA is recommended and needed for this kiddo to catch up to their typically developing peers, then we would have them discontinue school at that time and then start with us full-time.
Thank you. I've got a question. I just unmuted. There you go.
Perfect. Hi there.
Hi. There was something said earlier in the presentation where there was a diagnostic report needed. What does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
because you guys also said that it's not necessarily for autistic children.
Yes, I can definitely clarify. Thank you for bringing that up. So ABA in general is not just for kiddos with autism. At Bierman Autism Centers, however, we only accept kiddos with a diagnosis of autism. So for our center specifically, they would require a diagnostic report and a diagnosis of autism. But in ABA in general, it can be used with any living organism. Does that make sense?
Yes, that clarifies it. Thank you.
Okay, you got it. Thank you for that question.
We had another question that asked about the cost of the program. Do you want to take that, Sarah, or I'm happy to help?
Yeah, you can take it. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So, ABA therapy and insurance is differs so much from state to state. So we always recommend reaching out to our intake team who is versed in all the different states with all the insurance and all the different nuances for insurance. And they'll be able to help work with your insurance company. And they work all sorts of magic. I don't know how they do it, but I call it magic. But they're, and if we didn't mention this earlier, tomorrow I'll send out an email that'll have this recording. And I'll include the email address that you could send an email to ask those questions, but they're definitely the experts on it.
Fantastic. I did see another question while you were answering. Do you have weekend programs after school? And then where is your location? So we do not have weekend programs, but for after school, depending on what hours you're talking about, if your kiddo came to us part-time, potentially we could do a part-time schedule, but our hours of operation are still only 8:30 to 4:30. So if you're thinking about an after-school program that might go into the evening further, then I would say no, we don't have that type of after-school program. And then to answer your question about where is your location, so I am in the Rhode Island location. We have three centers in Rhode Island. One's in Warwick, Rhode Island, Cranston, Rhode Island, and then in Warren, Rhode Island. We call that our East Bay location. We also have 3 centers in Massachusetts. We're also in Indiana. We're also in Ohio. We're also in Arizona, New Jersey. So we have
North
locations.
Carolina,
North Carolina. Thank you.
Ohio, all of them. And we're
Yeah.
expanding all the time.
We're everywhere. So yeah, so it's likely that you could find a location near you. What does a discharge report consist of, and what information is included in it? That is fantastic. So if you're speaking of a discharge report for when a client leaves Bierman to go to another placement, whether it's another ABA provider, whether it's a school, we're going to put together a discharge report. That should include things like, you know, the learner's level, any information that is going to help them be more successful or as successful in their next placement. We're going to include all that in the discharge report. We might include current levels of learning, current goals, current rates of challenging behaviors. We want to share all that with the next provider, and then also provide our contact information to them so they can reach out to us for clarification, as long as you know, the parents give us permission to talk to that next placement. I hope that answered that question. I have, what is your phone number? Oh, looks like somebody deleted it.
I just answered it because I figured it was easier. I'll put it in the email as well, but it's 800-931-8113. And then her other question was about a BCBA in New York City.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right.
Which we don't have yet, but we are expanding, and maybe one day.
Fantastic. Maybe I'll relocate.
Same.
Do you have afternoon schedules? I think I kind of answered that. So again, depending on what we're recommending for services for your kiddo, we could potentially do a part-time placement of an afternoon schedule. Those are pretty rare, but they do happen. It just wouldn't be further into the evening. Again, hours 8:30 to 4:30. Oh, fantastic question. If a client goes to school but has ABA services, do you try to follow the IEP plan when it comes to behaviors and SEL? Is that, what does that stand for? SEL? I thought potentially second English learner, but that usually has a different social emotional learning. Oh, fantastic. I was thinking about an IEP thing completely different. Okay, so yes, so I can answer this one first. So if they go to school, have ABA services, do we try to follow the IEP plan? We are not an educational placement. We are technically a medical facility. Again, diagnosis is is autism, and the treatment is ABA therapy. That's what we're providing. So we wouldn't necessarily follow an IEP. However, we can sometimes derive skills from an IEP. We completely collaborate with all people involved with your kiddo's care. So we would be talking to the school if that was something that was happening at the same time as ABA services, to make sure that we're targeting, you know, the appropriate skills based on our assessments and based on their recommendations as well. Again, very collaborative. We would want to do that. And then social emotional learning. Gosh, I don't know if you've heard of treatment informed care or treatment assumed care and things like that. We are open to deliver whatever type of therapy within the umbrella of ABA that your child needs. We take into account past learning histories, past experiences, past trauma, all of that we would want to take into account. And then we would also want to teach our kiddos how to do that for others. So we want to make sure that, you know, we educate our kiddos how to be appropriate and caring and thoughtful for our other learners as well. So we're going to teach some of that within social skills, a social skills framework, but also that's our approach too. So I hope that kind of answered that question on two fronts there. Do you have a school bus to get back and forth? We do not provide transportation to and from our centers. If you're lucky, you potentially could talk to the school district. We have had a couple of our learners be provided transportation through the school district. So that could be a possibility for you, but Bierman Autism Centers does not provide transportation to and from.
And just as a second note on that, there are some, depending on the state, there are some states that offer programs that provide transportation. But our intake team, who I'll, like I said, include in that email tomorrow, they'll have the most up-to-date knowledge on what programs are available that we work with all the time.
Fantastic, thank you.
Cool. All right, any other questions before we wrap it up?
It looks like we had one coming through. Do you offer in-school ABA program? We do not have an in-school, like we don't go into the school to provide ABA, if that's what you're talking about. I hope that answered that question. All right. I think that might be it if there aren't any more questions.
You guys are wonderful. I will also include Sarah's contact information if you want to reach out to her as well for questions. Because she's just wonderful and we're very lucky to have her. So we really just appreciate you guys and look forward to more of this, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all so much. Have an awesome night.
You too. Bye-bye.